Hi, fourth grade families. I noticed that in this week's packet, which is the week of May 11's packet, your student will be exploring decimals. So I'm going to present my screen and show you how to create a decimal based off of a fraction. So I have our place value chart here, and this is the place value chart we've used in fourth grade for Unit 1. So we have ones, tens, hundreds, or comma, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, comma, and millions. So first I'm going to review with a whole number. So if we have 2,458, we have 8 ones, 5 is in our tens place, and that 5 is worth 50. 4 in our hundreds, so that 4, it's like having 4 hundreds blocks, so that 4 is worth 400. And then 2 in our thousands. So now with decimals, we are going to be adding on to our place value chart. So the decimal goes to the right of the ones. The first place value we're going to be looking at is tenths. If you notice, we have ones, and then we have a version of 10 on both sides. We have tens, a whole number, and then tenths, which is less than one whole. And our next place value, if you looked at the pattern, we have ones, tens, hundreds. Now we have ones, tenths, and hundredths. So you might have seen decimals before when it comes to money, right? If we have $2,458, we can actually make this into a decimal just by putting zeros. Because whenever you have a zero to the right of the decimal with no other digit, it doesn't change the value, right? If I have $2,458, it's still $2,458 whether we have zeros here or not. So now I'm going to look strictly at fractions. Take away this whole number. When we are working with decimals, we want to have a fraction that has a denominator of 10 or 100, or a fraction that you could change and create an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 10 or 100. So we're going to start with 2 tenths. I'll zoom in a little bit. All right, so when we're making decimals, it's really helpful to say the fraction out loud because it will help you input your decimal, your numbers to create a decimal. So 2 tenths. 2 tenths, a fraction we know is less than one whole. If you ate 2 tenths of a pizza, you did not eat a whole pizza yet. So in our ones place, our whole number, we're going to have 0 because a fraction is less than one whole. When you say this fraction, 2 tenths, it's just like how it sounds in the decimal. We're going to have 2 in our tenths spot. And there's our decimal, 0.2, which we would say as 2 tenths is equivalent to our fraction 2 tenths. We want to try another one. Again, we have 0 in the ones because this is a fraction, it's less than one whole. And we have 5 tenths. So 5 would be in our tenths category. So 0.5 is 5 tenths, and that's equal to 5 tenths a fraction. So these two values, or these two versions of this value are the same. We can also have hundredths now. So let's say I have, let's keep it 5, but my denominator is 100. Again, we have no whole number because this isn't a mixed number. Now 5 100ths, 5 hundredths. So 5 will be in our hundredths spot. Now we can't leave the tenths blank, just like if we had a whole number, we had 3 and 4, or 3 and 4, we can't just leave these blank, they would represent 0, right? So I'm gonna leave this as 0 again. So we're going to put 0 as a place value for our tenths. So this decimal, 0.05, we would say as 5 hundredths is equivalent to this fraction 5 100ths. If we had 9 100ths, then we would have 9 in our hundredth spot. Let's look at another number. Let's have a 2-digit number on top. So we have 23 100ths. Now, some of you might be quick to just put 23 in this hundredth spot, but we have to separate those digits. So we want to say the number and have it end in the hundredth spot. So 23 hundredths. So 0.23 we would say as 23 hundredths. And that's equivalent to our fraction 23 100ths. Let's try one more. Let's say we have 40 100ths. If we put a 4 in the hundredths, this would be 4 hundredths. So that would be 4 out of 100. That's very different than 40 100ths, which is 40 out of 100. So we have to be careful with where we're putting our numbers because we're not saying 4 hundredths, we're saying 40 hundredths. So 0.40, which is 40 hundredths, is equivalent to 40 100ths as a fraction. Some of you might be looking at this and thinking, well, 4 is in the 10th spot. And that's because 40 100ths is, if we add another fraction here, is equivalent to 4/10. And this is also in the next YouTube video. So if you want more help with creating equivalent fractions for hundreds and tens, watch the next YouTube video. So 40 hundredths, which is right here, is equal to 4/10 because 10 times 10 is 100 and 4 times 10 is 40. So just like how we were talking with money, there's a 0 on the right. It doesn't change the value unless there's another digit after it. So 0.4 and 0.40 are the same value. So if we try another one, if we had 7/10, we have 7 in our tenths spot, and that would be equivalent to, if we wanted to add a 0, 70 100ths. And that's kind of like if we wanted to look at money, if we had $4.7, usually we'd want to make that into the hundredths, so $4.70. The 7 is still in the tenths spot. So that is how you convert a fraction into a decimal. Remember, a fraction is less than one whole, so we have zeros in all of these place values that are to the left of the decimal. And I always recommend saying the fraction out loud because it will help you input the numbers into the correct place value.